here we are again. So recall in the first episode, we created vectors from text. So we took each document and converted it into a vector, and we're able to use that to find similar documents. In the last episode, we added something to those vectors where we put a head on top of them, and we used those vectors for classification, putting documents into buckets. So we classified tweets as being about movies or not about movies. So in this episode, we're going to look at how you can actually use those vectors to just take a look at them. So we've created the vectors in the first episode, we modified them in the second episode, and in this episode we're going to look at them in 3D in TensorBoard. So we've got our import from our stuff here, our transformers, and then this is the model that we import just like before, our nice function to make vectors, and we may need to load the tweets, but probably not. You probably have them saved already. And this will tell you, hey, it looks and see if they're saved. And if not, it goes and gets them. I'm sorry, if not, it creates them. But I had them saved. These are the vectors from episode 1, first video. Then recall in episode 2 that we saved the vectors at the very end because those vectors were changed somewhat because we're modifying them for a particular task, which is putting documents into buckets based on whether or not they mention movies. So here we just load this up, and now we've got our vectors. And so here's what tweets look like as we've seen by now. And recall that we need to import our summary writer, and this is just like we did in episode 2. Summary equals summary writer. Now in this episode, we're going to actually add embeddings to the summary, and there's an annoying bug. I think this bug only comes up if you have TensorFlow installed. So if you have TensorFlow installed, you may get an error that says error module TensorFlow core API IO has no attribute get file system. It's just one of those version mismatch kinds of things. You can look here on GitHub for more information. But if you get that error, this GitHub issue says the way to fix that is you import TensorFlow, which you already have if TensorFlow is what caused the bug, and then you just overwrite this TF-IOG file and your error goes away. So you can set this to false if you don't have TensorFlow installed. Excuse me. Okay, so that's all that. Now we're gonna create our NumPy versions of our vectors, and the ones that we already loaded from yesterday were already in NumPy. I'm sorry, loaded from the last episode. So then all we do, once we have our vectors, is for each set of vectors, what we do is we do summary add embedding. And so you do all transformer NP, which is the transformer vectors, and then you do metadata, and the metadata is like a label for each document. So you might list the document title or like the document number or something, because you'll be able to see that in the 3D. Since tweets are short, we'll just use the tweets themselves. And then tag, so you can say which set of embeddings is this, and this is the transformer vec. Then you do the same thing for your average vecs and your custom vecs. So the beauty is it's really simple. You just do summary.addEmbedding, and you give your NumPy array and then your metadata, which is a list of information about each in the first dimension of the NumPy array, and then just say what it's called. And then you run that, and then you go to TensorBoard, just like we did in episode 2, where you start TensorBoard, where we saw in episode 2 that the way you start TensorBoard was you just go TensorBoard logdir, and so we do that now, and we go to our embedding. So this is what we saw in episode 2. So our accuracy went up, our loss went down. That's all very nice. But what we can do now is we can go over here to the right, and we can look at, was it projector? There we are. So let's look first at our average vex. So let's see, can we get rid of this guy? How do you get rid of it? I'm sure there's a way to do it, but so here we are with our vectors in 3D, and that's all. It's pretty cool. So this I found is really interesting and fun, although it's not particularly useful. So what you've done is you've taken something that's like 762 dimensions and you can choose between using PCA or TS&E or some other way, and map them down to 3 dimensions. And then you can scroll them around, which is kind of fun. And then you can say, so theoretically, things that are similar should be pretty similar. So let's see. Felt like a truck ran over me after soccer. When I was a kid, my mom would buy. Spent Saturday installing. Thunder Road has been playing. I just watched 127 hours. So it doesn't look like these tweets do a very good job of matching the, you don't have all the tweets that are similar next to each other. But this is a difficult thing when you're going all the way down to 3 dimensions. And there's so many different ways things could be similar. That's kind of weird. My mom telling me something. Wish just I could get rid of this guy over here. Why don't you go away? Get. Let's see. This is supposed to get. Clear selection? No. Maybe we can do this. Okay, and you can look at them all. But I always have a little bit of trouble getting this thing to do what I want. But, so, now we got to go back to our other. No. All right, we're having all kinds of trouble here. Here we go. We're back to this. Okay, so, but now you can look at many at once. So, now we recall that we created 3 different embeddings. So we created a transformer. Now it's computing that stuff again. And we're back to the original format. So we can look at the transformer. We can stop it and swirl it around and say, okay, there's a bunch of stuff over here. What is this? Always a little hesitant to open the car's sunroof because it may not close again. And then hate those bags that have to be fastened before you pick them up. So you get all your tweets together here, and you don't see in either of these cases a very good separation. Like there's not all the movies in one, or not all of the things about different pieces in different places. And this I found sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. So because there's so many different ways these tweets could be similar, and the embedding space, when you're not training it for anything in particular, dreamed network programming. So you'd hope maybe all the dreams be over here, but not necessarily because, well, there's 2 dreams right next to each other. That's nice. Play basketball with a giant strawberry. Dreamed I went to a fancy restaurant without wearing a shirt. Okay, that's pretty classic, I imagine. So that's nice. So there's a little bit of clustering, as you would see, but there's so many different ways things could be similar. And then you're mapping down from 762 or whatever it is to 3 dimensions. So, however, recall that in last episode that we did explicit classification. So we were taught the BERT model to some degree that what we care about is whether the tweet is about movies or not. And so when we plot those vecs or look at those vecs, we see that there is a nice separation here. So let's see, if you look at this, wish it would do a better job of not blocking this. What does that do? That just brings me back here. But these are all non-movies. Wait, these are movies, sorry. So this side is movies, mostly movies, videos. Just saw a movie about a strange fringe group fighting to keep America dependent on foreign oil. That was the Muppet movie. A lot of kids' movies, movie characters. Okay, so weird and actors in a movie but on a TV show. Okay, so this is all movies, but if you go over here, the other side, it's not. Resurrected my wife's old laptop with Linux, future of information, fame and fortune, await the first person to develop a robot that powers itself by eating fire ants. So these are not movies. So you see mostly movies, mostly not movies. And that's because we told the machine, hey, we want these vectors computed such that they're able to make this distinction. And we're able to see this distinction in the 3D plot here. So that is the end of this video. This one is probably closer to the 5 minutes that the videos are supposed to be. And then in the next video, we'll look at mostly some prepackaged stuff you can do in Hugging Face, like generating text and some translations. And we'll also look at pulling out named entities, like I want to pull all the names of companies from this document. Okay, thanks, and see you soon.